Let's start with Guenther just because, I mean, he had the signature moment and just, like, looked almost bewildered by the fact that the game was over, which was amazing. Just like, "Did that just happen? Okay, cool, we won." That was great. I think what we saw from Guenther over the course of the tournament, certainly a very good scorer, a power play weapon, scored both the first and the last goal of the gold medal game. I think we saw kind of a lot of the things that whenever I've seen Dylan Guenther in these high level events, he's often, the primary finisher. He's a guy that finishes plays. He's not necessarily the guy that drives play. And I think as a winger, you don't necessarily have to be that. If you can be a high end finisher, you really don't have to be that. And I think that's what he was in the tournament. And ultimately, what you saw at the World Juniors is what you hope he becomes as an NHL player. And that's a guy that is a top six scorer that will produce, that will give you really good overall shifts and be an impactful player in all zones and particularly in the offensive half of the ice. So that was evident throughout the tournament. I don't necessarily think that we saw a player that was dominant, but we did see a player that was at the top tier of that tournament, among the top tier players. Um, and then to switch gears to Logan Cooley, 14 points in the tournament, sixth most ever by an American at the World Juniors. And you know, really he had an interesting tournament because there were games where he produced every single game, he had points in every single game, but there were also times where he just kind of faded out of the game and you didn't see him as much. And that was surprising to me because I've not seen that from him very often. I think some of the defensive elements of the game still need work for him, and he also needs to pick his spots better in terms of how aggressive he is sometimes. I mean, he wants to carry the puck into the zone all the time. He wants to go 1-on-5. That's not going to work at the NHL level. It certainly didn't work at the World Junior level. But when he was playing, as Rand Pecknold would say, when we were playing honest and we were playing the right way, he was one of the best players on the ice. His speed is dynamic. His skills are dynamic. His vision is insane. He just needs to, he has so much confidence in what he can do with the puck that he sometimes puts himself into bad positions and makes bad decisions and is just, it was funny because both he and Luke Hughes are the same way in that, where they're like, I want the puck. I will do whatever I want with it. And you can't stop me. Unfortunately, they're not quite at the level where you can't stop me yet, but they at least are, they're close. So that's not, I don't begrudge them for having that level of confidence with the puck. But I think that what we saw from Logan Cooley was a continuation and maybe even an acceleration of what we've seen from him at the collegiate level so far. And so I think he is a special player. We look at the last year's draft class and who's number one from that class. There's a debate. I mean, obviously I had Logan Cooley as my number one guy last year, so I'm partial to him, but at the same time, like there's a fairly valid argument that he's been one of the best players from that draft class so far in the very early stage, and he certainly outplayed Shane Wright in that tournament in my opinion. So there are all those different kind of debate points that we can have about these players, but I think Logan Cooley had a World Juniors that was special. And even though there were moments where he faded or where he wasn't as impactful, without him, that U.S. team doesn't medal at all. I mean, it doesn't come close. They were not a great team, but they had a really good first line. They had a decent first pairing defense, and then they had goaltending when they needed it. And, I think Logan Cooley was a massive driver. He was a tournament all-star and one of USA's best three players is named by the team. So I think that says a lot about what he did at this tournament.